MANYATTA, Where Utopia Meets Absurdity. Published in USA. Copyright 202E by Nelson Deriva. This book is copyrighted. All rights reserved. Translated in English, Kiswahili, Spanish, and Kikuyu languages. MANYATTA, The Utopian Illusion of Nature's Embrace. Introduction. In a land where reality twists into a surreal dance of nature and human folly, MANYATTA stands as a beacon of an idealistic yet perplexing society. Here, language flows backwards, memories reset with the dawn, and citizens don magnetic garments that react to their emotional turmoil. This seemingly utopian realm, governed by the wisdom of nature and the fluidity of interpretation, beckons the curious and the unwitting alike. But as newcomers like Jokothe quickly discover, the enchanting allure of MANYATTA conceals a labyrinth of control and disillusionment. Through the eyes of its inhabitants, MANYATTA, the utopian illusion of nature's embrace, unravels a tale that challenges our perceptions of paradise and exposes the fragile balance between harmony and captivity. Welcome to MANYATTA, where the world operates in a delightful state of reverse chaos. Here, language is spoken backwards, because why not add a twist of confusion to everyday conversations? The residents of MANYATTA, bless their hearts, forget everything except their charming reversed babble the moment they hit the hay. Morning arrives, and voilà, memory reset. They can't remember each other, the riveting discussion about what constitutes the best kind of sandwich, or the fact that they even had a chat to begin with. Waking up is an adventure in itself, as each resident discovers, again, that everyone else seems to be fundamentally flawed in some mysterious, freshly perceived way. However, as the day progresses and the sleep fog lifts, they miraculously start recognizing one another as friends, even siblings. The more they fight off the urge to sleep, the more they connect, basking in a brief window of camaraderie before the inevitable memory wipe cycle starts all over again. Truly, MANYATTA is the place where social interaction is a roller coaster, blending surrealism with a splash of daily amnesia. It was a realm unlike any other that had ever reigned, where citizens found themselves ensnared within its borders through a series of extraordinary circumstances. Accidental migration? Check. Unintentional border crossing? Absolutely. Naturalization? Why not? All these unwitting souls were irresistibly drawn into the utterly enchanting embrace of MANYATTA. The uniqueness of MANYATTA didn't stem from its geography or architecture. No, that would be too mundane. Instead, it thrived on the delightful absurdity of its societal principles. Forget traditional measures of qualification like birthright or skill sets. Those are so passé. In MANYATTA, citizens were chosen based on their uncanny knack for aligning their lifestyles with the whims of Mother Nature herself. This empire held an unshakable belief that one's harmony with the natural world was the ultimate qualification. Consequently, those who stumbled into its borders, wide-eyed and bewildered, were welcomed as kindred spirits, destined to thrive in this quirky utopia. The lands of MANYATTA were a paradise abundant with lush greenery, sparkling lakes, and majestic mountains that stretched into the horizon. The citizens, hailing from various walks of life, were united by their shared appreciation for the environment and their commitment to living in harmony with nature. They held the quaint belief that every action had a consequence, and their lifestyle choices dutifully reflected this philosophy. In MANYATTA, folks from all backgrounds, artists, farmers, techies, and dreamers coexisted in a blissful symphony of eco-friendly practices. They reveled in the knowledge that their composting, recycling, and solar-powered lives were saving the world, one biodegradable fork at a time. The citizens wore their sustainability like a badge of honor, believing that even the smallest gesture, like planting a tree or conserving water, had cosmic significance. Here in this green utopia, they lived out their days basking in the satisfaction of knowing they were the true stewards of Earth, guardians of an idyllic existence where every leaf and ripple was a testament to their unwavering dedication to Mother Nature. Patrons' bewilderment and erratic behavior were a true spectacle in MANYATTA, a place where control was as elusive as common sense. In this topsy-turvy realm, instructions and guidelines weren't simply spoken or written. Oh no, they were devoured. Yes, you read that right. Every bit of guidance was cooked up, mixed into snacks, and literally ingested. Imagine a world where your daily dose of directions came in the form of a hearty stew or a side of biscuits. Your body then had the delightful task of decoding these culinary messages based on the prescribed concoction. So when residents' eccentricities took center stage, it wasn't entirely her fault. She was just responding to the latest serving of ambiguous, snack-based instructions. In MANYATTA, residents are granted the whimsical freedom to escalate their paranoia to levels that might make a conspiracy theorist blush, whether it's passing out from a dramatic hunger strike or misinterpreting the latest batch of consumed instructions. This quirky setup means that as their memories flutter back to half-full recollections of their past selves, they're free to blame their support agents with theatrical flair. As a form of protest, each individual belts out their personal grievances in a unique tune, creating a delightful cacophony of discontent. The beauty of this ritual is its contagious nature. Neighbors, often clueless about the cause of the ruckus, eagerly join in the impromptu chorus. So if you're ever in MANYATTA and hear an uncoordinated choir of complaints, rest assured it's just the neighborhood bonding over their collective dismay, no understanding required. Education played a vital role in the empire, with a strong emphasis on environmental studies, natural sciences, and holistic well-being. In MANYATTA, the classroom was as likely to be a forest glade or a riverside as a traditional schoolroom. Citizens sought wisdom from the land and its inhabitants, learning life's greatest lessons from the creatures and plants that surrounded them. They understood that knowledge was the key to unlocking the secrets of the natural world and made it their mission to pass this earthy wisdom down to future generations. As time went by, the word of MANYATTA's extraordinary way of life spread across the globe. People from all corners of the earth felt irresistibly drawn to this unique empire, whether by sheer accident or through a deliberate quest for naturalization. And why not? Who wouldn't want to join a society where recycling is a rite of passage and hugging a tree is a daily ritual? The citizens of MANYATTA warmly embraced these newcomers, recognizing the universality of their shared values and the importance of expanding their harmonious community. Each new arrival was a fresh leaf in MANYATTA's ever-growing tree of life, eagerly accepted into the fold where everyone understood that living in sync with nature wasn't just a lifestyle, it was a universal truth. In the gated multiplicity of MANYATTA, citizens embraced a unique form of governance where the dialect of nature and adaptation reigned supreme. Here, the meanings of sentences and words were fluid, ever-changing, and imbued with layers of context and interpretation, a linguistic playground where ambiguity was the rule, not the exception. Within MANYATTA's borders, physical rulership took a nonviolent form. Leaders, selected from among the citizens for their wisdom and deep connection to the natural world, guided the empire with compassion and an intricate understanding of the interconnectedness of all living beings. Their rule wasn't about authority or force but was grounded in a shared vision of harmony and respect for the environment. In this enlightened society, citizens lived their lives in strict adherence to the principles of nonviolence, fully aware that every action caused ripples through nature's delicate fabric. Conflicts were resolved through peaceful dialogue, empathy, and understanding, with an emphasis on finding common ground and shared solutions. It was an egalitarian paradise where power wasn't hoarded by a few but was distributed among the community, ensuring every voice was heard and valued. Yet, in a twist of dark irony, the authorities maintained control through an ingenious mechanism: erasable memory. Every night, as citizens drifted into sleep, their minds were gently wiped clean of the day's interactions and relationships, ensuring a fresh start each morning. This nightly reset kept the community under control, a subtle reminder that even in a utopia, some forms of manipulation remain hidden in plain sight. Once you become a resident of MANYATTA, you essentially lose your command over language as you knew it. You'll find yourself limited to just one language, be it your native tongue, the local dialect, or some bizarre blend of both. But here's the twist: you'll also adopt MANYATTA's reverse language theme, where each sentence has a meaning that's exactly opposite of what came before it. Imagine trying to have a conversation where each sentence is like a line from an essay, but instead of flowing logically, it's been sliced up, tossed into a box, and then randomly pulled out. Your task: reassemble it with no regard for coherence. It's like a linguistic jigsaw puzzle, except the pieces don't fit together and you've lost the picture on the box. This is MANYATTA, where communication is an avant-garde art form that only a local could truly appreciate or decipher. In this dialect of nature and adaptation, every sentence carried a unique meaning, distinct from its predecessor. It was a language that required active listening, deep observation, and a profound connection to the world around them. Through this linguistic dance, the citizens of MANYATTA understood the messages whispered by the wind, the stories written in the stars, and the wisdom spoken by the rivers. For the uninitiated visitors, MANYATTA was a waking nightmare where nothing made sense. The spoken dialect seemed like a chaotic symphony of nonsense, with each word and phrase twisting and turning in ways that defied conventional logic. To the bewildered outsiders, it felt like the universe had thrown them into a blender of incomprehensible chatter, where every attempt at understanding only deepened the confusion. The citizens, with their serene smiles and effortless fluency, navigated this linguistic maze with grace, while visitors floundered, struggling to grasp even the simplest exchanges. In the oh-so-enchanting realm of MANYATTA, every citizen had the pleasure of experiencing a truly delightful phenomenon. As a testament to their deep, mystical connection with nature, each individual sported a magnetic garment with a mind of its own. This charming piece of fashion had the quirky ability to rebel against its wearer's movements, reacting with delightful bursts of uncontrollable energy whenever someone dared to get a little too angry. The magnetic garment, with its unpredictable flair, was a constant and profound reminder for the fine folks of MANYATTA to cultivate emotional harmony and self-awareness. It was as if the universe itself had decided that regular emotional regulation techniques were too passe and instead opted for shock therapy quite literally. Whenever a citizen found themselves on the brink of losing their cool, their trusty garment would throw a fit, forcing them to pause, reflect, and perhaps reconsider that tantrum. In the heart-wrenching saga of Jokothe, a once proud real estate salesperson, we find a tale dripping with irony and tinged with despair. Imagine dedicating over 3 decades to your company, only to be rewarded with a paid tour that leads you straight into the clutches of MANYATTA, a fate worse than any office meeting you've ever endured. Each morning, as the first rays of sunlight begrudgingly spread across MANYATTA, Jokothe would awaken with a glimmer of hope. Eager to meet his non-existent client, he would approach the ever-stoic guards at the borders, pleading to be let out to fulfill his professional duties. But alas, his earnest appeals were met with nothing more than indifferent headshakes and empty promises. Maybe tomorrow, they'd say, as if that meant anything in this twisted utopia. Desperation became Jokothe's daily companion. The guards, those bastions of false hope, encircled him, their eyes always watching, their lips always lying. They spun intricate webs of fake schedules and phantom appointments, dangling them in front of Jokothe like a carrot on a stick. Every effort he made to escape the confines of MANYATTA was met with resistance, leaving him physically drained and emotionally battered. With each passing day, Jokothe's once vibrant spirit dimmed. The zest he once had for his work and life faded into a haze of desolation and resignation. The decades of dedication to his career now felt like a cruel joke, as he found himself trapped in a place where his skills and passions were about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Day by day, his dreams eroded, ground down by the relentless monotony of his imprisonment. The bustling world of real estate, teeming with opportunities and challenges, became a distant memory. The boundaries of MANYATTA turned into the unyielding walls of his personal prison, suffocating his aspirations and crushing any attempt to break free. Each futile plea to the guards chipped away at his hope until it was reduced to a mere flicker in the depths of his soul. Jokothe, once full of vigor and resilience, had his spirit crushed under the weight of his confinement. The vibrant world beyond MANYATTA remained an elusive mirage, forever out of his grasp. Jokothe's tragic tale serves as a darkly humorous reminder of what can happen when the promise of a paid tour leads to a lifetime of captivity. His dreams and aspirations were overshadowed by the deceptive allure of a reward that turned into his undoing. The days turned into years, his spirit faded, and Jokothe became a mere shadow of the man he once was. MANYATTA, with its guarded borders and perpetual lies, stands as a cruel monument to missed opportunities and broken dreams. Jokothe, forever ensnared in its grasp, yearned for the freedom he once took for granted, his heart heavy with regret. Jokothe found himself in this abyss while escaping the wrath of his peers after one too many mischievous escapades. Nobody could quite pin down what his real job was, but he always sported a wardrobe that screamed success, and was perpetually generous with gifts, outings, and other social perks whenever he was around. In the event leading up to his unexpected exile to the empire of MANYATTA, Jokothe decided to send his friends on a wild goose chase to find him a car that matched his so-called elite status. Out of sheer respect for his seemingly otherworldly caliber, his peers dutifully scoured car dealerships across the neighborhood, painstakingly picking out the best options. With much fanfare, they summoned him to inspect the chosen vehicle. It didn't take long to realize that Jokothe wasn't remotely interested in purchasing a car. No, he was just a master jester, delighting in the chaos and confusion he left in his wake. Jokothe, upon inspecting the carefully selected high-class car, had the audacity to claim that he didn't like the looks and appearance of the car's intestines. Yes, you heard right, the intestines. When the hood was opened at his request, he dramatically exclaimed that it should be sparkling clean and that he would only pay for it if it was spotless. The royal entourage of this enigmatic Czech, who could give any soap opera diva a run for their money, was promptly summoned by the dealer to jump into action and scrub the engine and undercarriage until it gleamed. Meanwhile, Czech, with the flair of an Oscar-winning actor, excused himself to go to the bank to fetch the full amount in cash, leaving his loyal subjects to laboriously detail the car to his impossibly high standards. Czech strutted down the road with all the grandeur of a self-appointed monarch, never once looking back until he disappeared at the horizon's edge. Czech made sure his duped comrades witnessed his grand departure, supposedly heading to town where his bank was situated. With all the flair of a seasoned actor, he boarded the bus to the city, only to slyly alight and hop onto a bus heading back to his home. As he passed the car dealership, he couldn't help but smile, a grin as wide as the Grand Canyon. He had made those fools believe he was genuinely interested in a car purchase deal, which he himself knew was a complete gimmick. Even an April Fool's Day prank couldn't hold a candle to his unorthodox mischief. His shenanigans were in a league of their own, leaving behind a trail of bewildered faces and chuckles of disbelief. He hopped on a commuter bus to his house, packed his suitcase with the precision of a seasoned traveler, and groomed himself to world-class standards. Turning to his wife with an air of exaggerated importance, he announced, "I've been invited by the president. See you tomorrow," before making his dramatic exit. However, reality hit hard when he realized that no buses were heading in the direction he needed. His only option was a lone shuttle from MANYATTA, inexplicably in the neighborhood. Desperate to avoid his royalist peers who might come questioning his delay at the car dealership, Czech practically begged the MANYATTA personnel for a ride to the other side of the city. They reluctantly agreed, but only on one condition: he had to sleep the entire journey. Back at the dealership, the royal entourage had scrubbed, buffed and polished the car to an absurd level of cleanliness. By now it was late afternoon. They were tired, hungry, and completely spent. Feeling their royal dignity crumbling, they demanded payment for their impromptu detailing services. The salesman, now as irate as a hornet's nest, pushed back furiously, insisting they produce the elusive Czech. After all, it was they who had referred this phantom of a human being, who had a knack for vanishing and reappearing like some mischievous spirit. They left the dealership and began their quest to track down the ever-elusive Czech. First stop his home. His wife, with a nonchalant wave, informed them that he had left for the State House several hours ago. This brewed a potent mix of bewilderment and frustration, kicking off a frantic, city-wide manhunt. Unbeknownst to them, Czech had become the newest unwitting entrant of MANYATTA, where each night his memory was wiped clean. The royal entourage was tirelessly hunting for their man while he blissfully forgot they even existed, tangled up in his new life of nightly amnesia. Luckily, nature has its way of leveling things out. Czech, in a twist of fate, paid in full for his audacious antics. As he grinned like a Cheshire cat, reveling in his latest triumph, he was blissfully unaware that his next destination would be the perplexing empire of MANYATTA. Upon entering MANYATTA, Czech's first encounter was with the befuddling bureaucratic process. The guards at the gate, with expressions as blank as a freshly wiped chalkboard, eyed him up and down. They handed him a magnetic garment that felt more like a straitjacket than clothing. This was no ordinary place. The rules here danced to a tune that was decidedly offbeat. Ever the master of improvisation, tried to charm his way through, but MANYATTA had its own brand of mischief. The garment, which he initially thought was a quirky fashion statement, had a mind of its own. At the slightest hint of irritation, it would rebel, sending him into fits of awkward, jerky movements that made him look like he was performing an interpretive dance. To make matters even more bewildering, Czech quickly realized that every night, his memory would be partially erased. This meant he could never quite recall the specifics of his grandiose schemes or his path to MANYATTA. The guards all looked eerily similar to him, adding to his growing paranoia. In MANYATTA, the environment conspired to teach him a lesson he had dodged his whole life. Every action had its consequence. And as Czech navigated this strange land, constantly forgetting and relearning, he began to understand that perhaps, just perhaps, he wasn't the only trickster in the game. MANYATTA had its own tricks up its sleeve, and Czech was now the star of its most peculiar play. Who needs a pillow when you've got a hammer and nails, right? If you thought sleep aids were complicated, clearly you've never met Billy's roommate. Billy, the lucky soul living in the corner house of MANYATTA, had a roommate who apparently thought sleep was overrated, or at least traditional sleep methods. Billy's roommate firmly believed that if he didn't get nailed up, he simply couldn't sleep. Despite his best efforts to count sheep, he was more accustomed to counting nails. Every night was a spectacle as he whined and moaned about how he couldn't possibly drift off without his nightly nailing. Every night, without fail, this genius would wake Billy up and request, with the utmost seriousness, to be nailed up for his nightly slumber. Yes, you heard that right. He wanted to be nailed up, as in, nailed to the wall, to enjoy his rest. Kubaya would calmly request, "I need to be nailed. I need my nails," with a serene determination. The moment the final nail was driven in, his face would light up with a blissful smile, as if he had just been granted the ultimate luxury. The satisfaction he derived from each nail being perfectly positioned was unparalleled, transforming his chaotic restlessness into an almost euphoric state of contentment. However, as soon as Billy performed the sacred nailing ritual, Kubaya would fall into a deep, almost magical slumber. The moment the nails were in place, it was as if a switch had been flipped. Kubaya's frantic antics would cease instantly, and he'd drift off into the kind of serene, undisturbed sleep that was only achievable through the nightly nailing ceremony. If Billy was even a moment late with his nightly ritual of nailing Kubaya, the chaos that ensued was nothing short of a circus. Kubaya's imagination would run wild. He'd scream about imaginary elephants trampling through the darkness and stagger around in a sleepless frenzy. His performance was a tragicomic display of paranoia and sleep deprivation, turning the corner house into a theater of absurdity. This was not a quirky request, it was a matter of principle. Another star in the MANYATTA circus was Tinga, aptly nicknamed for his extraordinary talent of swallowing metallic objects. Whether it was keys, coins, needles, or even the odd piece of broken kitchenware, Tinga's stomach was a veritable graveyard of shiny items, swallowing them without so much as a hiccup of distress. In true MANYATTA fashion, Jokothe would humorously volunteer to sweep the corridors for any stray objects, just to bring them to Tinga's ever-hungry belly. Occasionally, Tinga would experience a little trouble with bowel movements, prompting doctors to insert suppositories to help him out. This would hilariously lead to a frantic search for the doctor, who, according to Tinga, had somehow left his finger under the bowel tunnel, turning a routine medical procedure into an absurd scavenger hunt. "Where's the doctor?" Tinga would bellow as he wandered through the maze-like paths and passages of MANYATTA, his memory finally clearing from its fog. "Tell him he left his finger inside me." This bizarrely comedic finger fiasco would, of course, be forgotten as soon as Tinga went to sleep and his memory was wiped clean. Food was another battlefield. Henrique's deep-seated belief that any food touched by the hands of MANYATTA's cooks was tainted led him to starve himself in a spectacular display of culinary distrust. He was convinced that if fish were clever enough to keep their mouths shut, they'd stay in the water forever. Yes, Henrique's wisdom was as profound as it was puzzling. As the days passed and his memory began to clear, Henrique's survival instincts kicked in. Realizing he might actually need to eat, he grudgingly accepted the food from MANYATTA's staff, who quite humorously had to literally force-feed him before his memory was completely restored. So Henrique's grand adventure in MANYATTA turned into a comical saga of paranoia, footwear obsession, and a rather dramatic diet plan. Henrique's descent into frailty became a community project as the people of MANYATTA scrambled to figure out how to feed him. His daily routine involved knocking on doors, seeking solace in gossip about the latest conspiracies aimed at him. He would then find a cozy spot in someone's house, fall asleep for a day and a half, and wake up with fresh paranoia. Henrique, in his infinite wisdom and flair for dramatic exits, took his antics to a whole new level. In a fit of theatrical despair, he would physically grab his poor, unsuspecting guards by the hands and place them around his neck, practically begging them to choke him to death. His pitch, a masterclass in cosmic bargaining, he insisted it was far more noble for them to assist in his departure to the heavenly realms. "Why waste your time saving me from myself?" he'd wail. "You might as well get some heavenly points by helping me out. After all, you can't redeem your already overfilled cups of sin. Why not add mine to your collection and march straight to the devil with a full roster of sins?" Henrique's strategy was straightforward. If he was going to shuffle off this mortal coil, he might as well drag everyone else into his grand, sinful exit plan. One particularly dramatic day, after a prolonged nap, Henrique declared he was ready for the ultimate exit. He wanted to go to heaven and was actively soliciting poison. The aid staff, trying to meet him halfway, offered him a humble hamburger. Henrique, in his infinite wisdom, immediately suspected foul play and inquired whether it was poisoned. The staff, adhering to their professional integrity, assured him it was perfectly safe. But Henrique, ever the skeptic, demanded that someone pee on the burger first. His logic? If someone peed on it, he would definitely die and make it to heaven. So the staff, ever resourceful and mildly amused, took the burger to the restroom, let the faucet run for a while, and then returned with the pea-sprayed burger. Henrique, with his newfound clarity, took one look and dramatically announced, "Hey, hey, hey. Now I see who wants me dead. I'm not eating this." End of Part 1. The story is written by Nelson de Riva.